Hey, we're back, Coon Prairie Ramblers. We're still confabulating and mind meandering. And we got the KC.
Yes.
And we got the Luke.
Yep.
And the Mailman.
Yep.
And we was talking about
Frozen.
Frozen. Not
dancing.
Not the movie either.
Not the movie.
Let it go. Let it go.
Oh, gosh. Don't do that.
Get a rope. Get a rope.
I don't even know the song. I couldn't sing it.
That's the only part I know of it.
And we're about to find out what the coldest that Luke has ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Coldest I ever been. Probably in the early 2000s, we were camping with some buddies down at where Swift Creek runs into Peace River down there. And we were up playing music around the fire and recording that night, and we didn't notice how cold it was till we got up to go to bed. Had a roaring fire, and it was cold. And we got up from there, and we went back to our tents. And we didn't know it. It got down to like 16 degrees. It was like Martin Luther King weekend. I remember that vividly. 16 degrees. We got in our tents. I crawled in my sleeping bag, and I will swear, I laid there and I vibrated. I didn't just shake. I vibrated for about 10 minutes till my body heat finally. I guess I was moving around so much. I finally got a little bit of heat. But
how many were there?
There was probably about a dozen of us down there, and about 4 of us playing music. But what happened was one guy, and I won't mention his name because it's a name that will live in infamy after what he did. He couldn't get cold, so he gets up after the rest of us and started throwing wood on the fire, and he still couldn't get warm. He threw more wood on the fire, and he kept throwing wood on the fire until he had this giant bonfire that we somehow slept through because we had frozen ourselves to sleep or whatever. Anyway, and that still didn't get him warm, so he got up the next morning. No, before daylight he left. We got up next morning, there ain't a stick of wood. And I'm not lying, there was frost on the ground everywhere, and my buddy
got up.
Well, one fishing guy had one of these styrofoam things you bought, had the worms in it, and the lid was off, and the worms were sticking straight up out of the thing like that. They were like an inch or two out. We broke them off like that, and the worms were frozen. There was like a half inch of ice in the water. Anybody had any water? It was like a half inch of ice. Wow. But to make amends, about breakfast time, he showed back up with a load of wood. And that's all that kept us from going to his house and killing him.
And he didn't bring no donuts with him or anything?
He brought his wife, but we weren't interested.
No coffee.
No coffee or nothing. We still had to start the fire and then cook it. But about 16 degrees, and that's about the coldest I've ever been. How about you?
Well, coldest I've ever been.
It was when you crossed your wife and she gave you that stare.
Yeah. It was back in 60-something. Back in the 60s. We went out cow hunting one morning. And
that's
for those of you that don't know what cow hunting
I can't imagine.
We weren't cowboys. We were cow hunters.
Right.
Which is Florida's term for cowboys.
That's exactly
because
right.
we had to go out and look for the cows. Literally, you had to go find them. So we were cow hunters. So anyhow, we used to have a group that would kind of help each other out to cow hunt. And that day, that was myself, my father, Bob A. Vant, Donald Boyd, and Earl Carlton, one or two other people.
Wow.
So we're going out there. And it was cold when we left the house. And when we got on our horses to ride out, we gathered together to set a cow pens, and we're going to go from there to go get the cows, and we bring them back to the cow pen. Well, as we rode off, temperature began to drop. And I've never seen that happen before or after. Maybe once or twice, but it went from being a cold morning, freezing. I mean, to the point to where it was unbearable.
It can be painful if you get
it
cold.
Was. There was the point that we got out around 2 or 3 miles out in the woods, and it's a long way back when you ride a horse. And it's freaking cold. It was so cold we had to take our slickers, which is a big raincoat,
right?
And we put the raincoats on over, like we had on like Levi jackets or something like that, and long sleeve shirts, and we had to put our raincoats on to help keep us warm, to block the wind and all off of us, and so. It was so cold that we were all just about to die. And we said, well, we can't even work the cows in this weather. It's so cold, so we'll just head on back. So as we're heading back, we have our cow dogs with us, which everybody had their own cow dog, and people would bring their cow dogs to help you and all. And back then, too, the cow dogs were not just a cow dog. They were guard dogs, yard dogs. I mean, they served multi-purpose dogs. And they were also hog dogs. I mean, they would work hogs. So we're coming back, and we come by a hammock, and these 2 hogs jump and run into the hammock. And
oh boy!
Naturally, the dogs take off after them, so we go after them. Turns out these were 2 big, huge, giant bar hogs. And if you don't know what a bar hog is, it is a boar hog that has had his male parts removed.
That's right.
Or his special parts removed. And we used to do that when we were finding out in the woods. We'd find little boar hogs, we'd cut them,
Right.
mark their ears, crop their ears off so we'd know they were bars, and we'd turn them loose. And then when you'd find them later on, you couldn't hardly eat a bull hog, but you could. The bar hog was really good. So we got these two giant bar hogs, and the dogs jump them and run them up there. And so we go out there and get off the horses and catch these bar hogs. And we're, in our rain slickers, and we're freezing to death. And we tie up these bars and go back up to the cow pens and get a truck, come back out there and load the bar hogs back in the truck, freezing to death. But, I mean, you're talking about a lot of good meat. And we weren't going to let it go to waste.
The sacrifices you make.
Oh, yeah. So we go all the way back and ride 2 or 3 miles back to the trucks, get the trucks, go back there and get the bar hogs. Well, this was back in the days when Henry Woods had his grocery store in Nocatee.
And a butcher shop
behind it, right.
Yeah.
And now you could never get away with this nowadays. So we go up to Henry's, and Henry opens up his butcher shop for us to butcher these hogs.
Wow.
And, back then, you didn't skin the hogs. You scraped the hogs. You put them in, dipped them in scalding hot water, and then you'd scrape all the skin off of, the hair off of the skin, because you wanted to save that skin for cracklings and chickarones or whatever. And so we do that. And I can remember those two hogs were like 7 pounds apart from each other. They were, I don't know if they'd been from the same litter and grew up their whole life together to die together.
Brothers.
Yeah. And they, one of them weighed like 195 pounds and one weighed like 188 or something. But, and I'm talking about dressed.
Dressed the way they no kidding.
Now, they were huge.
They were monsters.
And so we get there, and Henry, like I say, he opens up if you did that nowadays, they'd probably run you out and take your license away from you.
You ain't kidding.
And everything
you have to pay him or give him some of the meat?
No, we all shopped there.
Right.
We all bought our meat and our stuff here. So every single person in the group, that's where you bought all your meat at. You bought your stuff for him to cut up too when you'd have a calf or something like that.
That's right.
So he gladly opened his place up for us, and I can remember it was so cold.
You guys did the work yourself, huh?
Yeah, he just let us use his butcher facilities. He had the stuff to hang them with, and you had to have a special kettle to scald the hog. So you had a big enough to scald the hog. And, normally people didn't kill hog. That's why I said something the other day about hog killing weather. Normally you didn't kill a hog until it was extremely cold.
Frigid, yes.
Because you wanted to hang them up. You used to do it at your house in your yards or at somebody else's house in yards. It was kind of an event. And you would get together and kill the hogs and hang them in the yard. And you had to do it when it was cold weather because you didn't have any flies. Because if you have flies come by and land on the meat, it'll ruin the meat. So
that's exactly right. You had to.
So anyhow, we ended up on a beautiful, cold, freezing day. Turned into a kind of a good day, but
cow hunt turned into a hog hunt.
Hog hunt, cold hog hunt. But that was cold as I can ever imagine being. You couldn't even talk to each other.
We'll have to get your picture of him.
It was good to build that fire. It was good to build that fire underneath that kettle. To start scalding.
Ready to jump in yourself and have a hot tub.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the day started out cold. It got colder and colder till it was, absolutely freezing.
Even the dogs chattered their teeth.
I'll have to find some interesting pictures for that.
Hey, yeah.
Hog hunting and everything. So you can find them online. Anyway, we're out of time for this segment. We'll be back in a short with the If Bomb.